Amane, wake up please. A gentle voice called his name, pulling him from his comfortable slumber. With a groggy millimeter, he raised his heavy eyelids and slowly opened his eyes. The blurry figure of a lovely girl appeared before him, faintly illuminated by the sunlight streaming through the window. She had one knee up on the bed to shake him awake and was leaning forward, her hemp-colored hair cascading around her like wisteria vines that swayed with her every movement. Mahiru, yes. Good morning. When he called out her name to confirm it was her, she nodded and answered in a familiar voice. Amane didn't think he'd overslept, so he was having a little trouble figuring out why Mahiru was in his bedroom. She was there as if it was the most natural thing in the world, further deepening his confusion. He said, "Morning. Why are you here? Don't you remember what we talked about yesterday?" Mahiru frowned slightly. "Yesterday," he replied, then recalled their exchange from the previous evening. "Beginning this Monday, could we start walking to school together?" Mahiru had asked as they were parting on Sunday night. She'd looked up at him uneasily, fidgeting as if she couldn't settle down, which made him a little nervous, too. Mahiru had probably spoken cautiously in order to see whether Amane was planning to conceal their relations. They had already talked it over and decided to go public, but she still seemed worried about it. As far as Amane was concerned, they had basically confessed their love to the world already, so he hadn't even considered keeping it a secret. Rather, he fully intended to tell people they were dating now. "Yeah, sure. Oh really? What would I get out of lying?" When she heard Amane's answer, the tinge of anxiety in Mahiru's eyes disappeared, replaced by shades of delight. Amane's heart fluttered when he heard her whisper bashfully, "I've always wanted to walk to school together," but she hadn't seemed to notice his agitation. "All right, then, I'll come over to your place in the morning," she said brightly. "While we're at it, we may as well eat breakfast together." "Oh, sweet. I get to eat Mahiru's cooking first thing in the morning. It's just going to be leftovers. Is it all right if I make you a lunchbox, too?" I would like nothing better. Amane would have been perfectly content with the breakfasts that Mahiru made. So he couldn't help but feel delighted for a chance to eat her cooking at lunch, too. The thought that she wouldn't have to restrain herself in front of other people anymore had Mahiru beaming with happiness, and Amane was glad to see that whenever she'd looked at him. At the same time, it made him feel a bit embarrassed. "We'll start going together tomorrow, huh?" Up to that point, he had been staggering his commutes in order to avoid giving anyone clues about his relationship with Mahiru. But going forward, that would no longer be necessary. Being open about their relationship at school was sure to make others jealous of him, which was worrying, but the most important thing was that it would make Mahiru happy. Being by her side was enough for him. Amane gazed at Mahiru, who was smiling happily, and mumbled quietly, "I guess I've got my work cut out for me." As his brain fog started to clear, Amane groaned a little when he remembered their conversation from the previous night. He wasn't opposed to the idea, but seeing Mahiru first thing in the morning surprised him and made him forget. Mahiru watched Amane's reaction with an exasperated look. But she didn't seem that irritated, rather she looked amused to be chiding Amane for his hopelessness, so Amane pouted his lips in apology. "Good grief, you're so forgetful. Well, go on, get dressed and wash your face." "Okay." Mahiru was probably going to prepare their meals while he did that. Suppressing a yawn, Amane got up out of bed and took off the shirt he was wearing. He heard a sudden shriek from right beside him. "Hiya." He tossed his shirt on the bed, then looked at Mahiru, who had her eyes firmly closed and was trembling. Her cheeks were red. "Listen, I told you this before, but please don't change in front of me," she said, clearly agitated from seeing him take off his shirt. Amane couldn't help but smile wryly. "I'm a guy, so I don't really mind if you see me." "Well, I do. Look, I'm not trying to show off or anything, and I'm not going to tell you that you have to get used to it or whatever, but we won't be able to go to a lot of summer staples like the pool if you let this bother you." They continued their morning routine with a bit of playful banter. After he was dressed, Mahiru watched him adjust his hair in the mirror. She seemed anxious about how he looked, worried about other girls noticing him now that he was more presentable. I might have a hard time keeping you all to myself, she mumbled. Amane gave a little smile and gently stroked her head. Well, why not enjoy having me to yourself while you still can? I think I will, she said, pressing herself against his chest, feeling a rush of affection. Amane reassured her. It's all right. Even if another girl does talk to me, I'm not interested in anyone but you, Mahiru. Her cheeks flushed again, and she whispered, I know that. That's why I'm reminding you of my feelings, so there's no opening for someone to take advantage of. They shared a tender moment before heading out the door together. Walking to school hand in hand for the first time felt special. Mahiru was clearly overjoyed, her smile brighter than usual. I've been wanting to go to school like this for a long time. And finally being able to do that. I'm just so happy, she said. Yeah, Amane replied, feeling a warmth in his chest as he realized just how much she cared for him. The closer they got to school, the more he noticed people staring. Mahiru reassured him that he looked different, more confident, more composed. You've always been different. I like both versions of you, but I hate the Amane who belittles himself, she said. Amane promised to be more positive from now on, not wanting to disappoint her. As they walked, holding hands, they faced the stares of their peers with newfound confidence, knowing that their happiness together was what mattered most.